Sup nerds, I'm Tom.
And I'm Aaron. And today it's a little cold here in Florida.
It's kind of chilly.
Yeah, we're wearing sweaters because it dropped below 70 degrees, and
that's freezing.
That's freezing. So to spice things up and warm things up, we're going to talk about Century Spice Road.
Ooh, and that's why we don't let Aaron write jokes. I want to start this video off by saying that Century Spice Road a lot of the times gets compared to, and at least it was for me before I actually sat down to play it the first time, it gets compared to Splendor. And if you saw our review for Splendor, you actually saw that I didn't really like Splendor all that much. And since this one gets compared to that, does that mean that I don't like Century Spice Road? Well, before I fully answer that, I'm going to go ahead and tell you that I don't think comparing Century Spice Road exclusively to Splendor is really perfect. I mean, they're semi-comparable, but to be like, oh, this is like Splendor, but just a little different, that's not truly accurate.
Like, the main reason it gets compared to Splendor is that it's simple mechanics, and it's basically an intro game that has, kind of that same, similar engine building, but that's about where you can compare it. And then there's probably a ton of other games you could compare this to. It's just that's the one that everybody's like, Splendor? Oh yeah, I know that game.
Yeah. So you're not like, what's Century Spice Road? Well, and then you try and explain it. You go, well, if you played Splendor, it's kind of sort of like that. But on the flip side of that, whereas in Splendor you draft the gems, so you're kind of drafting your resources to buy cards, and here you're drafting the cards that are an engine by which you generate the resources. So that's a lot more complex. There's a lot more thinking involved and a lot of math in a sense. And it's also learning, because the resources or the spices, the yellow, red, green, and brown, those are tier 1, 2, 3, and 4. So the more you play the game, the more you can look at a card and see that it has green in it or that it has brown in it, and immediately know that those are the high tier resources, instead of trying to stop and think, oh wait, green. Not just do I need green right now for the goal, but is green a valuable resource?
Another thing that's you learn as you play this game is that the cards that give you extra resources, and that's the main thing it does, are actually kind of rare. There's only 7 of these in the game, and if you get one of them early, you take a strong lead because you have a whole extra hand in which you can gather resources before you have to bring your cards back to your hand. Most people are like, okay, gather resources, trade them up, swap them out for something else, and that's my turn. Now I need to bring my cards back. And if you have gathering more resources, that's a good one.
I definitely agree with you that there is a learning curve in this game. That right there. Not only is it knowing that those cards, the ones that gather you resources, are valuable in and of themselves, but the fact that there are only 7 of them, like he said, means that when one flops out, that's an opportunity. You could be like, it's not just ooh, is that a good card? Yeah, it's a good card, but the fact that there's only 7 of them, that's a really good card at this point, because if that's the only one out there, you better do what you can to get it, because if somebody else gets it, they're going to be at an advantage, and if one of the other 7 don't flop out for a little while, they're going to be at an advantage for a little while.
So when you look at Century Spice Road, you notice that there are amazing components that come in this game. You get these bowls, you get these cubes. I mean, the cubes aren't, I guess, that amazing. They're just wood. But the bowls, that's something, every time we play a game, we always, break out those little, saucer things to put our tokens in. But this gives them to you, so you don't have to do that. And then it comes with these nice metal coins. The cards they're nice quality and stuff. But the best way to play this game is if you got to buy this mat. It lays it out so you know exactly how many cards to have out there. It puts the rankings of the spices in the right order so you don't have to remember them.
It tells you where to put the gold and the silver respectively. And now everything you see here except for the mat comes in just the standard version of the game. This isn't some upgraded version. This isn't some Kickstarter exclusive super component. We spent $40 extra. This is what you get when you get Century Spice Road. The mat, you should definitely get that. That's an extra. I think it's definitely hands down something that you need, but you're not looking at all these metal coins and thinking that, we backed this on Kickstarter for $200 and, spent a fortune to get all this stuff. This game wasn't even on Kickstarter. It's what are you guys thinking? Come on.
But if you were to want something that looks kind of Kickstarter-y or limited edition, you could get the Golem edition, which is literally the same game. It's just they reskinned it. They gave, there's more variance in the artwork. It has cooler, I think that the gems are cooler than this metal
cubes,
instead of this wood. So you have I don't know, there's just the components are a little different, a little better, I think.
The theme is different.
Yeah.
And they still give you, here we have these little bowls. They have little, almost ceramic looking
We took a look at it at Gen Con, so if you want to check out the video, it's down there somewhere.
We'll put a link. There'll be a bunch of links down there for various things. Walmart and Domino's. I don't know. Who wants to sponsor us?
So I really do enjoy this game, and I like the engine building mechanic of like building the cards into your hand and stuff. But I think the thing that excites me the most is there are more Century games coming out soon.
What? Aaron?
They printed them right here on the side of the box to show you that, in 2018 and 2019, there's 2 more coming out that add new elements to the game but they're fully compatible. So you can like mix the games together somehow. I know it's kind of vague what they've said on the side and what we've heard on the internet.
They were just spitballing about what's going to happen in the future of which we have no actual information. And I like how you picked this up, even though I'm just going to throw up a picture of a close-up because there's no way you guys can't see this, right? Yeah, that doesn't help. That doesn't help. Good job, though. Nice effort. And we've been talking about how the game functions and how great the components are a little bit, but we haven't really talked about whether we like it a lot yet. And what I will say to that, again, saying the whole I didn't really like Splendor. Do I like this? It was a game that kind of grew on me. I'm not saying I didn't like it. I was pretty indifferent the very first time I sat down to play it. And I think in part of that has to do with that there is a learning curve to this game. You're not going to do all that well your first game, maybe, because, other people who can see a card and instantly like start thinking of strategies. For a first player, you're going to sit down and you're kind of think, okay, well, what can this card be used for and how good is that card? And also, Mike from Plan B Games, who told me kind of a little bit of strategy, he was like, well, if you really don't know what to do in your turn, just pick up a card because it'll increase your options. You're not wasting your time. You're just, if you don't really know what to do, that's not a bad thing. And while that is correct, I just did that for like half the game. I just did it like 8 times.
Piling up cards.
It's like, sure, I'll pick up a card, whatever. I'm not certain what I'm doing yet, but I'll figure something out. And then I had just a plethora of options, and I couldn't really figure out a good engine to use it with. So it was for that reason that it took me a while to get into it, because I think I just wasn't playing it right the first time. And in addition to that, there was one, presupposition that I had of this game after my first playthrough that then turned out to be false. And what I mean by that is game end is triggered by whoever gets like their 5th or 6th
depending
one of these.
On game size.
Yeah, depending on the number of players. And I always thought, well, then it just makes sense to go for the biggest ones. When the 20 flops out or any of these 15s or 16s, it makes sense to just try and get those because...
More points.
Yeah, more points. And really, like, how... can you trigger endgame when you get 6 and somebody else still has 5, or when you have 5 and somebody else still has 4 or 3? Like, is that really all that possible? And my first couple of times, I didn't really think it was. I thought that, like, the chances of that happening aren't a big deal. We're all just going to fight over the big ones, and that's how it's going to be. But then the most recent time we played it, I actually was able to do that. I was able to trigger endgame with some of the cards that were less points than what Aaron had, but I had one more. And I thought, one more is not that big a difference. Apparently it is, because I crushed him. He sucks. He sucks.
You can spend a lot of time, building your engine and trying to collect the cubes you need to buy the expensive, these expensive bounties or whatever they're called. And you're trying to get a bunch of points when somebody can just go really quickly and do a bunch of these really small ones, which only take a couple turns to pull off, where you're spending 3 or more extra turns trying to collect 5 greens. Like that's insanely hard compared to 2 yellows and a red and a brown. Like you can pull that off a lot quicker. So I did see Tom, the first game he played with me, that like he was like just going like, oh, I got too many cards, I'm going for these small ones, and not getting a lot of points until you realized if you build your engine correctly and you can pull off getting small ones quickly before anybody else can, and especially if you can get them when they're worth when they have coins associated with them, like that's how you can win the game if you're going for the quick strategy and nobody else is going for that. And I think that the best way to pull that off is the rule that everyone forgets, is that when you trade spices, you can actually do it multiple times if you have enough of the resources to do it multiple times. That in itself, like, it's just a tiny little thing that's like, okay, well, I'm going to trade. Doing it twice, that's 2 actions worth of trading is really big.
In one move. Like this card here says 2 reds will get you a green and 3 yellows. Well, 4 reds will get you 2 greens and 6 yellows. And you're right, not a lot of people think about that. And saving up to get 4 reds is a little bit longer, but then that card is hella powerful. Yeah. Almost too powerful. Like, you better not have any more than that, because then you'll be over your 10,
Just throw away some of the yellows.
Throw away some of the garbage, yeah. And also in this game, like when we were talking about the strategy of, who's going for what card, because the resources that you have are all public knowledge, and so are the goal cards out there, you can kind of see, well, this guy, he's definitely going for this, I think, and I can probably get that in like 2 or 3 turns. So unless he can get that in, 1 or 2 turns, maybe I can get it in front of him. Whereas in Splendor, and I know that I said I don't think we should be comparing this to Splendor, and now that's all I'm doing. But in Splendor, when you can reserve those cards and have them secret and keep them secret, keep them safe, and unless you were really studying and writing down or remembering what everybody had, someone can just take a gem and, they can just be like, all right, well, I'm going to score this, boom. And you didn't even know that was an option. You didn't know that you could block for that or that you could prepare for that. And, you're just kind of like, well, what was I going to do? Nothing.
Overall, I really enjoy Century Spice Road. It's a great little engine building, hand building game, which makes it kind of unique. I haven't played many games that have an engine that you build in your hand like that. It's almost like a deck builder. And, especially, spending resources to buy the cards as they're further up the track. There's a lot of, strategy in that. And I really enjoyed it. Like, win or lose, I have fun playing this game. I think that, they made a great quality product, especially if you get the mat. And, I'm like I said, I'm really looking forward to the next 2 expansions and
really versions, right? Yeah,
standalone games and see what they add to it.
I agree with Aaron. I thought this game was absolutely solid, and it's because it's not saying I didn't like it the first time. I was just kind of like I was at like a 5 or 6 with it, But it had a little bit of like uniqueness to it that made me like want to try it again. I'm like, yeah, I thought it was okay the first time, but let me keep going. And I would kind of behoove you to do that. I would encourage you that if on your first playthrough you're kind of meh, like if you don't like it your first playthrough, sure, it's probably not going to change. But if you're like, it was okay on your first playthrough, stick with it. That experience and being able to really, really know, because by like my 3rd or 4th time playing it, I was be able to like pick up a card and be like, okay, 1, 2, 3. I could get that, goal in 4 moves, I think. And I can get that goal probably in 3 moves, but it looks like they're going for that goal, so I don't know. Like, I was able to really crunch it out and really figure stuff out in this game, which makes you feel good. When you are playing a game and you feel like you're an expert after only a couple of plays, you really enjoy it on a totally different level. And like he said, what?
But you don't have to be an expert to play this game. Like, it's a great game for intro gamers, so...
Right, so you can introduce it to somebody and they can become an expert in the game in like 2 or 3 plays. Yeah. And if it is an intro game, to like a new gamer, they will get that feeling of like being an expert, and when they've never felt like they're an expert in a game. Like nobody who has only played Monopoly ever feels like an expert in Monopoly. You know what I mean? So you can introduce a new gamer to a game and to a new experience that they've never had before. And like you said, the component quality, awesome. So you guys should definitely click on the link below and get yourself a copy of the base game and of the playmat.
Hey, and while you're down there, don't forget to subscribe so you'll never be bored. So you'll never be bored. Stay warm.
Yeah, we made the joke that it's cold outside, but it's so hot under these lights. So